Hello, my darlings. It's Michaela. So this video is for my dear girlfriend Joanna, who lives afar. So her request was around hips. She is a big runner, so my assumption is that she is potentially dealing with a discomfort that happens for a lot of runners based on the mechanics of running and how they're using their body. Okay, so what this is all about is essentially when we run, we have to flex our thighs, right? We need to bring our knees up. So often there is a deep muscle that attaches to the front of the spine and then also into a bony prominence in our femur, our thigh bone, called our lesser trochanter. So if you've ever felt your hip bone kind of sticking out of the side of your hip, that's your greater trochanter, and there's a little bony prominence on the inside that's called your lesser trochanter, and there are certain muscles that attach to it. Anyway, one of them is the psoas muscle. So the psoas muscle basically assists with flexion of the thigh. The thing about that is that it's small, and so when we don't utilize other muscles to offset that, or we kind of charge into doing more than our body can handle, we often feel negative repercussions here that can be debilitating, frankly. So what I want to say is there are ways to offset that. So one thing to do, there's a concept called linkage, which I know we've talked about in the past. Basically, you are greater than the sum of your parts. So the more you contract when you are doing any given activity, you're going to create more power, all right? And you're going to offset the things that are weaker and smaller. So with that concept, contracting, I tell runners this often. So when you're running, and then maybe in general to help strengthen this muscle, period, is to think about contracting your transverse abdominis muscle, which is the deepest abdominal muscle. It goes all the way around your midsection. It's like a girdle. It is your core. And so how to contract that is to think about, basically it's below your belly button and kind of above your pubic bone. So how to strengthen that is to think about pulling that section towards your spine and feeling a little sensation in your lower back. And that lets you know that you are contracting that muscle. Please do it slowly, do it gently, or kind of with an element of curiosity, simply because it's deep and it tends to be weak. So it's easy to overpower it with other muscles that we use more superficial muscles, okay? So that is one thing. In general, when you're standing in the grocery line or driving in your car, you can strengthen that muscle just by pulling your belly in. But when you're running, it's amazing to kind of tighten up this midsection so these guys don't have to work quite as hard, and or you're possibly just offsetting the effort that they need to produce to help lift your thigh, okay? Then, your butt. Your butt is your best friend. Your butt is something that basically takes pressure off your lower back. It helps support your midsection. It's going to take pressure off of this little guy too. And ways to engage your butt when you're running is to think about sticking your butt out a little bit. And what that does is that brings weight over your heels, okay? It puts emphasis in muscles in the back of your body. And so I still believe, I know there are some people, there's all these new philosophies around running. I am not a runner. I just work with them. But basically, I know there's, more kind of in vogue running that deals with landing on the ball of the foot versus the heel. And so even if that's your preference, my feeling is you can still shift your body back to even be using what you choose to use more, regardless of what surface is hitting. I really believe that. So sticking out your butt a little bit more, and when you are making contact with the ground, thinking about pulling with muscles in the back of your body, okay? And so what's also really interesting is you can even think about using your butt to lift your leg. What's pretty crazy is that when we start to get a bit more intentional about how we're using our body, we ultimately have a lot more say, and we have a lot more control, and we have a lot more comfort and freedom. Okay? So anyway, I hope those are the things that are plaguing you, Miss Joanna, or other people, but it's most commonly seen here around runners. And then the other thing I just want to say too is running is a bit notorious in the body. I'm sure there are people that are so proficient with how to make this a lifelong sport. I am not this person. But there are other beautiful ways to either keep you conditioned for the racing that you love, or keep you conditioned in general and still enable you to go on your 3, 5, 10-mile runs, whatever you do, with any kind of regularity. Things like kettlebells are going to keep you conditioned, will make you faster, that is for sure, that's amazing. Things like swimming, doing intervals when you run, but mixing things up and just recognizing that you don't want to overdo this little guy, and if there's ways to offset it, then you will have a longer career in the sport that you love. Okay? So anyway, I hope that's super duper helpful. Please be in touch with any questions or concerns. Okay, thank you, and until next time.